mind standing so that our board members are able to identify you? We hope to make this a very worthwhile program for all of you. Thank you. You can go ahead and have a seat. I think we have a really good program today, and we'd like to go ahead and get started, not to leave our guest speakers take up too much time with theirs. I want to start off with the three guest speakers that we have today are from the Timken Company, and they're in different functions of the Timken Company. So we're going to start off with Mr. Paul Hart, Mr. Eric. He is the Vice President of Marketing, and he's had a very interesting and diverse background, and he's going to share some of that with you. Thanks, Eric.
So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come and talk with everyone this weekend. It's exciting for me. Deb introduced me as having a very interesting background. I'm not sure what that really means, but we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into this, and it's been a little bit of fun. I'm currently the Vice President of Marketing for the Timken Company, and what we wanted to talk about today is sort of the subject of marketing, and the things that I will cover is kind of what is marketing, what does it do, how does it fit within the business, and then talk a little bit about future jobs. And I'm going to talk at a pretty high level, so if you have questions, we have time at the end where you can ask any questions that you'd like, and I think that probably will be the best part of the discussion in my mind. So I could talk about marketing for hours on end. I have 735 slides, but I narrowed it down to 3 for you guys, just so you don't get bored with it. Forward and backwards. I think I can do this. So let's talk a little bit about marketing, what it is. And from my standpoint, before we talk about kind of what it does, I'd like to talk a little bit about what the goals are. And for me, when we talk about goals, there's really 3 primary goals. The first one is to attract in new customers. The second one would be to grow our share at customers, so sell more to those customers. And then the third piece is to retain the customers that we can serve profitably. And when you think about it, those are really goals that are shared across most businesses. So pretty much any job that you work at in the future, I will guarantee you that people at that company or at that job are going to be saying, hey, we got to go attract some new people, we got to make sure that we service those people well and keep them, and we got to try to give them more things to grow. So let's talk a little bit about what marketing does then. And at the bottom of the screen, again, you see 3 pieces there. So the first thing that marketing folks need to do is really understand what customers need. So when you think about a future job, a lot of what marketing people do is try to analyze information, try to talk to customers and gain insights from that to understand what they really need. And then what we want to do is create products that are really attractive to customers or meet those needs that they have. And then lastly, what we want to do is we have to communicate that to people as to why that's important to them and why they should be interested in those things. So I was trying to think through a few examples, and actually we have a number of examples that we could talk about, but maybe an easy one is cars. So pretty much everybody here, I'm assuming, is familiar with cars or is already driving cars. And with cars today, there's a feature called anti-lock brakes. So when I was in high school and we were driving cars and you stepped on the brake, the wheels would lock up and you would skid. And it was a dangerous environment sometimes. So there was innovations that came about that allowed you to step on the brake and the wheels would not lock up. And they would keep turning. And that allows you to control the car better. So car manufacturers, Ford, Chrysler, GM, they were making systems with anti-lock brakes, and they pretty much put them on every car. But there was a problem. The problem was that there was a sensor that was checking if the wheel was turning or not turning. And it was located underneath the car in the wheel well, so behind the tire, if you will. And what was happening is too many people were driving in puddles, mud, grass, dirt and debris, and all of that stuff would come up and it would stick on top of the sensor, and the sensor would get confused and it wouldn't know, sometimes it wouldn't work. So it wasn't a reliable system. So the tinting company, actually we had a number of engineers and salespeople that were working with designers. And they said, that's a need, that's a problem that we have. We have an unreliable system. So our technology people actually developed a sensor that they put inside the bearing. So it was fully enclosed. And it was really impervious to all the elements on the outside. So it was a much more reliable design. And we actually went about and we got patents for that. So it was very unique, and we were the first ones to do that. But then we had to go to the customers and explain to them why that was important, why it helped them, why it solved problems for them. And basically we put it in terms of you'll have less warranty claims, you'll have less customers that are unhappy with the performance of the products. And we're the only ones who have done this because we've created a patent. We're smart enough to create a patent on those things. So nobody else can do that, and we'd like you to buy it from us. And that turned into actually a fantastic program that we still leverage even today. This goes back a number of years ago now. So that's an example where we worked with customers, we found out there was a need, we figured out a way to satisfy that need, and then presented it back to them in a form of a product. So that's a perfect example of how marketing works. Marketing, as I just mentioned, right, is part of a much bigger puzzle. So if you think of a car again, there's not too many cars that can drive down the road without any tires. But if I gave it tires, there's not too many cars that could drive down the road without an engine. And if I gave it tires and an engine, I'd still have a problem if I didn't have a windshield or seat belts. So if you think about any business, there's a lot of pieces that all work together. And marketing would just be, or the function of marketing would just be one of those pieces. So in the example that I talked about, you know, the marketing folks were working with the sales folks, with the engineering folks, with the research designers, to integrate all of these things to come up with that sensor on the inside of the bearing that I just described. Now when we talk about all those different pieces, I gave some examples here of all the different areas that, at least in our business today, or my business today, marketing cuts across. I gave you examples where we work with sales, engineering, research, IT, information technology. We work very closely with IT to figure out how to take all the data that we have and analyze it properly. How do we put it in systems and capture it, look at it, store it for future use. Customer service, anybody who's talking with our customers. Supply chains, manufacturing, purchasing, how we make things, how we buy things, where we can source things, what's available outside the company that we can leverage. Product development, networks, schools. So you'd be surprised, we actually still work a lot with universities because we have problems just like any other business would have. And we work with universities like Penn State or MIT or any place, any university to work on programs and help us develop things that move our business forward. So the interesting thing about that now, if you start thinking about jobs that might be associated with marketing, and I'll give you my background. So when I graduated high school, I went to college for engineering. I graduated as a mechanical engineer. But when I graduated, I wasn't sure I wanted to be a design engineer, because there's many different kinds of engineering jobs. So I didn't want to be a designer, I didn't want to sit at a desk. And actually in those days it wasn't as much fun because we didn't even really have CAD. We were drawing with pencil and paper and rulers. I know I look young, but technology's changed a lot in just a few years. But I did want to leverage my engineering skills, and I wanted to work with people in engineering. So I found the Timken company. I've been working with Timken now for 28 years. I graduated out of college and came to Ohio to work for Timken. I wanted to work with engineers, and there was a job that was offered by the company, and it was for a sales engineer. And I thought that looked interesting. There was a lot of training involved in that, so I applied for the job and got it. And what I did is I would actually go out to customers and work with their engineers, design in bearing products that we manufactured. And then I'd also be responsible for working with the purchasing people and the buying people on allowing them to acquire those products or to buy those products. So it was actually pretty exciting. And for the first probably 8 years of my career, I did a lot of engineering, did a lot of sales and other business-related activities. So then I thought I'd like the business activities a lot, and I wanted to maybe branch into business activities. So I went back to school, I got my master's degree in business administration, and then moved into managerial functions that were related also to selling, customer service, corporate pricing. And then from there I moved into managing businesses, our rail business, our aerospace business, and then into marketing only recently actually. But I guess the point I was trying to make with that is, if you think about going to college and you think about how all these groups are interconnected that I mentioned on the previous slide, there's some traditional ways to get into marketing. You could study marketing or study communications or study business as degrees, which would allow you careers that would open up opportunities in places like marketing. You could also look at things like math, psychology, economics. You'd be amazed at how much technical calculations are in marketing. Regression analysis, analyzation of data, conjoint analysis, where you're actually measuring things that are happening and then trying to draw a conclusion from that data set. It's very much like engineering. There's a lot of engineering discipline in there. I gave you my example of how I got into marketing through engineering. Information technology would be another way. So I guess the comment I really just wanted to make to the group is that all of the different disciplines are all interconnected. And if you think of something like marketing as an example, most people say, that's advertising and promotion. Most people don't realize that there's a ton of analytics and data analysis that goes in there. There's also marketing and advertising. There's also a lot of customer insights and customer interactions that go in there. So many, many disciplines could allow you to get into that space. Does that make sense, everyone? And that space really cuts across, and it won't be unique to marketing, right? I'm sure when Steve and Rob talk about some other functional areas, you're going to find that there's a lot of roads to take you to places. And that's actually a really good thing for people who are thinking about what they want to do in the future, because we don't always know. And actually, when you think you know, you get into it and you might find, it's not as fun as I thought it would be, and I want to try something else. And there's no dead-end streets there, right? There's always opportunities in pretty much all the functional areas that you can go down with whatever education you have, and then branch from there. So I'll leave you with that. Those were my comments on this, and then again, we'll open it up for questions at the end, which hopefully you can then get anything that you're thinking about answering.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paulhart.
Sorry, I just want to say this right off. As you're listening to these gentlemen give up their time to come and speak like you're giving up your time, you probably want to open up your book, take down a few notes, because this pertains to you. They're giving up time like you're giving up time to be here for you. So make sure you use your pen or pencil, open up your book, and then scribble down a few of the notes that they're presenting to you.
Okay, well, next from the Timken Company, we're going to get to hear from Mr. Rob Arbogast, who his background is in human resources, and so I'll let you explain a little more.
Thank you. It's okay, you don't have to clap too much. Good afternoon. All right, so you're awake, and you know, one of the worst things in the world is actually having to follow a sales and marketing guy, right? What does he do for a living? He talks. He talks to everyone about nothing, but he talks, right? So I am Rob Arbogast. I'm in the HR world. Anyone ever hear of HR? Human resources, fantastic. So let's start out with a question. What is HR? What is it? Tell me. Human resources. What do you do in human resources? Go ahead. Come on, what do you do? Go ahead. Deal with employee problems. Yep, there you go. What else? Go ahead. Customers. What else? Yes? Middleman, and that is really true. Middleman between really the management and folks working and people who are having issues. So those are all things that you'll find in human resources. You know what? A lot of people say, hey, it's staffing, right? You go have to hire people. You guys ever apply for a job? Yeah, it's pain, right? You have to fill out all that paperwork. So it's staffing, it's recruiting, it's how you going to pay people, is Eric worth more than Steve? You know, it's doing things like that. It's also around talent. You guys go to training, right? You get a job, you got to figure out what to do. We got to figure out how to train you. That's what you do in human resources also. You got to figure out that stuff. You got to figure out when Eric came into the company, how did you train him to be a sales engineer? To train him to go out and see the customers. You also have to worry about development. You guys have probably read all about, you know, like leadership development and how you become a leader and how important that is. You know, a lot of people don't get that, so we get to train people on it. But you know what? These are just the tools. These are the things that we do to get the right results. The reality is, in today's world, human resources is not just hiring, firing, disciplining people. It's about how do you get business value. Every day, our job is to figure out how you create value. How do you create value for the business to go forward? How do you help the business to run better? And whether that's hiring somebody or figuring a new strategy to enable a business to implement things like Sensor Pack that Eric talked about. It is collaborating. I know that's one of those kind of buzzwords, but it is about collaborating. How do you work together with that team? And I think Eric showed a whole bunch of different types of people that work in marketing. How do you work with all of those people to get what the company needs to succeed? It is around being a business partner. So it's not sitting in a meeting and just talking about what you need to do in human resources. It's sitting in a meeting talking about what do you need to do to get the results to support the business. We also do a tremendous amount around driving change. Change is absolutely essential. Every day you find change in an organization. Do you guys like change? Yeah. I saw that one. That was like a, ugh. Some people love it, some people don't. But you know what? Change happens. constant. Our job is to help people figure out how to deal with that change. How do you move people forward? How do you get them to that new state of, that's really, really important. That's something that we get to play with. Problem solving. Do you guys ever take a class that had problem solving in it? Science, math, right? That's what we do a lot of. So you get Eric sitting there, you get Mr. Johnson next to him. I know this may be hard to believe, but they may not agree. Our job then is to help them work through those issues and come up to business results. How do you get that? How do you get a position where you can now move forward? That's what Human Resources does. We also work in a lot of strategy. I know that sounds, like high level, but it's important that we all can figure out where we're going, what we're trying to accomplish. And it's just not HR strategy, it's dealing with the business strategy. How do we all work together on that? We spend a lot of time working with our business partners to figure out where we're going, what do we need to do, not just about which person we need to hire or what type of people we need to hire, about where is the business going, and then how do we need to look at that in the future. So a lot of future-looking pieces. So, HR's changed a lot over the last few years, and what has also changed are the types of people that go into it. It used to be that anyone could just go into HR and figure out how to hire someone, right? Put an ad in the paper, people come in, you hire them, you're done. Well, it's changed a lot. So now we need, if you're going to be in the HR, we need people that are well educated. Education is,
Hold the mic higher.
higher up.
No, take your hand and move it up the mic. There you go.
How's that? Okay, so we need people that are well educated. And much as Eric said earlier, it is not just in business, it can be in engineering. Got a great person who works in our area, chemical engineer. Good thought process, good knowledge, that's what we're looking for. So well educated, and education is really just the entry into HR. We're really looking for people who are experienced. So as you go through your career, what we're looking for are people who of course know all the different areas in HR. And there are a lot of them, right? Compensation, we have people who have to work in the hiring side, we have the people that work in the labor relations side, we have people that work in the benefits side. So you have to have those experiences. But you also want people who have had other experiences. So, have you worked in manufacturing? Have we got someone who has been out in sales? Have we had someone who's been in the engineering side of the house and put products together? Have we found someone who maybe was in the finance or the IT sides? And all those experience sets are what makes somebody more valuable to the organization in the HR area, so that the solutions you come up with generate value versus just an HR solution. There's a piece here that people don't think about, but one of the things that we do look at are people who move, who physically pick up themselves and their family and move to another area. That way you get to know the cultures, you get to know how other people think and feel. That's very important when you're really trying to make decisions about people and how they work and how they operate. So for all of you, if you decide to go into HR, if you decide to go down that track, it's imperative that you look at the opportunities that are in front of you and go experience them. Don't say no, say yes. Even if you don't know if you want to do it, even if you look at it and go, boy, this is really scary, try it. And if you try it, you grow. And when you grow, that helps you then perform better. One of the things that all of us struggle with is keeping up to date. Technology changes, people change, right? When you start talking about an HR, we change almost daily. There seems to be a new law, a new regulation, a new educational something. So it is something that we all have to do. We have to keep up to date. And the last thing I'll say is that something extremely important for you to win in HR is to really come in with that committed and that desire to win. Because if you don't, you won't win, you won't stay on top, and you won't be able to hit the right value. I'm not gonna talk about all this, but Eric talked about his life at the Timken Company and how he started. So yeah, I was actually a machinist, a tool and die maker, vocational. I figured out I wanted to do something different, so I got a bachelor's degree, got a master's degree. I was doing postmaster's work. I was broke, so I figured I needed to get a job. So I actually went to Timken, and what that did for me is it gave me the opportunity to do a ton of different things. And you'll find a lot of them aren't in the HR area. I got to work with Steve Johnson in manufacturing. I got to work with Eric Paulhart in the business side. I had the opportunity to travel internationally. I had the opportunity to open facilities, which is always really a neat thing. I had the opportunity to close a lot of facilities. That's not as quite neat. But all of those experiences has helped me become a much better HR person. Another thing to remember is that your experience of what you have learned comes from the places that you have been. These guys have traveled a lot more than I have. But working for a company like Timken, having the ability to go out and to do things enabled me to go to areas of the world that I never thought possible. Whether it was China or Hong Kong before it became part of China, the Netherlands, UK, Romania. I would count it up the other day. I've been to more than 35 states on business in the US. All of those things help you become better at what you do. And I will tell you that the human resource field gives you that option and that ability. So, you guys ever heard of Marlington? Marlington, the high school, yeah, the school district. So that's where I'm from, right? About 20 miles outside of here. I lived in between a pig farm and a dairy farm. Okay, that's really picturesque, isn't it? I was a tool and die maker. I went to vocational machine trades in high school. I figured I needed to do something better than that, to try something different, so I went to Stark Technical College, or Stark State. I made it through that. I decided to go get a bachelor's and master's. I decided to work on a PhD, and I stopped at the dissertation. I got checked out on that. I had the opportunity then to work for Timken for 31 years, going on 32. When you pull all the pieces together, I had the opportunity recently to stand in front of about 125,000 people. It was streamed globally. It was with business leaders. It was on social media. It's on YouTube. And I'll tell you, from growing up in between a pig farm and a dairy farm to being able to do that, everyone can do it. Get your minds around it. Human resources was a great way to get there. A company like Timken was a great way to get there. And I will tell you, and I'll challenge all of you can get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate that. And next we have Dr. Stephen Johnson, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the world of science.
All right, see if I can manage this microphone here too. Right, that clicky thing.
Right here.
Ah, sneaky, sneaky. Thank you. All right, so I'm Steve Johnson. I head up research and development for the Timken Company, which is a team of about 165 people. Scientists, okay. They said hold the microphone out the top, right? So I'm not going to let go this way. So everything from scientists with PhDs down to the other end of the spectrum from an educational standpoint, just guys with high school graduation that are working in the trades areas. So I'll get to the presentation in a minute, but I think one of the things I want to make sure you take away from today You know, Einstein said, education is what remains after you've forgotten what you were taught in school. This is going to drive me nuts. So if you think about what Einstein was saying was, as you go through your life, you have a starting point, and that starting point will be whatever education you choose to get for yourselves. But it is just the starting point. Because as you heard from my two colleagues, your career can go in many, many different directions regardless of where you start. Now, I'm passionate about engineering.